Hi everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the Swyftx Squawk with me, Pav, lead market analyst here at Swyftx. And today we're going to dive into a little bit of what's been driving the crypto market's climb this week. So obviously it's been a bit noticeable that we're creeping ever so closer to this previous all-time highs on Bitcoin, as well as we're seeing as just a general sector recovery across altcoins. Obviously we want to understand what's maybe been a driving factor in all of this price appreciation, and even the broader markets, we're seeing a lot more confidence return. And it very much ties into a topic that we spoke about last week, just looking at a way to look into measuring some of the headline risks that we've seen in the market, particularly with the tensions boiling over in the Middle East. And what we have noticed, I've got a little tweet here that I put up yesterday showing that the search terms in the last 7 days for Israel or Iran has been decreasing looking at Google Trend data. Now, this data is normalized, so it does provide an accurate description of how the current search terms, what sort of volumes we're seeing previously to what we saw in the past. And this tells us that if the market has had some, obviously, sentiment towards what's been playing out in the Middle East, obviously there's been some concerns of that this could be the next major conflict globally. Having already seen what's happening in Europe at the moment between Russia and Ukraine. Now, obviously, what we've been seeing play out in the Middle East hasn't been good, to say the very least, but obviously there's some concerns for investors that could this conflict have potentially proliferated just with the escalation that we had seen towards the end of last week. And we have seen that while we haven't seen confirmations that there has been a true ceasefire, the general interest from the public is slowly diminishing when we look at Google Trend data here, looking at search histories over the last 7 days. So that does indicate to us that while we may be looking for more of an update in that space, the general market out there is showing less interest. So it could be less of a headline risk, as many people believe that this tension might be squared away. And that's a very interesting and telling sign of why we might be seeing some resilience return back to the crypto markets. And when we turn to Bitcoin ETF flows, we've seen a return to form for the Bitcoin ETF flows when we look at the net buying activity across these institutional ETF products. Now, this return to form comes at a very interesting time where we might be seeing these geopolitical tensions cool, but also looking ahead, we have some pretty important fundamental news to look forward to as well. And an initial executive order by President Trump was to basically put together a digital assets committee. By the 22nd of July, we'll have the next key date land where the president will be given a report that basically outlines recommendations and legislative measures on regulation in terms of oversight, consumer protection, risk management, as well as market structure, and basically give the whole industry more of a backbone from a regulatory angle than what we've seen to date. So while we have seen the Genius Act pass, which provided clarity on stablecoins specifically, this is the next big piece of the puzzle. And if we are looking towards this being maybe the next big major step in adoption for crypto, could this again have some big impacts on these ETF products that we're already seeing a renewed interest in? And this becomes more of an interesting trend when we look at the broader picture and zooming out and looking at how the Bitcoin spot ETF volumes are actually week on week, month by month, starting to show more of a market share of the total volumes being traded when we look at the total spot Bitcoin traded globally. And this is a chart that shows that exactly. We can see that while volatility obviously has spiked and the markets have moved quite a bit, the general trend for this chart is to the upside, which basically is showing that there has been ongoing demand for these products, even while maybe traditional outlets to purchase crypto may not be seeing as much growth. So that's, again, a very interesting sign for the markets. And particularly the leader in the pack here is BlackRock's IBIT product, which has been gaining traction the most out of all the products that we've seen to date. But that's it from us here at Swyftx today. Hopefully that's given you a nice little overview of what's been happening this week from a fundamental perspective. And obviously we've got some great things to look forward to in July, but we'll catch you again next week. Thank you.